feeling so good from the inside out? Better than your morning would feel without? Stretching our self-awareness like a muscle every morning to feel so good objectively. How do you feel good objectively? With the help of your only no-nonsense podcast, of course. You're your best feeling network and your own body, baby. The insides of your own body and our self-awareness as we're stretching our self-awareness like a muscle every morning. Today on Freedom Friday, we discuss free to change. My name is Herbie. This is Pal Go On. Good morning. I hope you're feeling so fantastic in that wonderful window to this godlike experience that you are. Have you been able to feel the weight of the body down the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all the times, as in the front of the spine, not the back, as we are here on Pal Go On, breaking down misconceptions that society has drilled into us, like thinking that we put our weight onto the back. We use a little bit of body magic tricks to make ourselves feel so great from the inside out. With the first podcast in 3D, we'll be right back to talk about how you're free to change. Thank you for that, host Herbie. Like, good morning. It is 5:52 a.m. Good morning. How are you? How are you? How are you? Are you able to feel so great in that wonderful body of yours? Have you been keeping the front of your shins in your awareness, or have you been trying to place weight onto the back of the calves, where weight is not supposed to be placed? As in, how is your body feeling today? Is it able to feel present and in the moment and in its authenticity? And how do we do that? By feeling the front of the shins, baby. Why the front of the shins? Well, it helps you feel good. It helps you feel the entire body. You know, like the fetal position, you know, babies and stuff. Not a lot of positions where we're touching the front of our shins and stuff. Today we're going to be talking about how you are free to change on Freedom Fridays. Today is September 3rd, 2021, 5:53 a.m. It is another Freedom Friday, another one of Freedom Friday on Pal Go On. We'll be talking about how you are free to change, how you are free to change. On Freedom Fridays, we're talking about how to get so free, feel so free for the weekend. How do we feel so free? How do we feel so free? Well, let's first get rid of the idea of us having free will. You don't have free will, guys. What do you mean you don't have free will? I have free will. I can move wherever I want. You don't have free will because you're constantly being affected by all these things around you, you know? The room, the universe, movies, the room, the space that you're in, the people around you, the thoughts that are buzzing inside your head, the feelings that are going on in your body, the images, the sounds, the smells, the tastes that are around you, all constantly bombarding your consciousness. You're more like in a web, if anything. You're more like in a web of all this information. And so you don't really have much of a choice in what's being afflicted onto you, whether that be physical sensations, whether that be mental ideas, whether that be anxiety-ridden thoughts, whether that be happy thoughts, so many things that are just being thrust upon you by the world around you, by people around you, by the thoughts around you, by the things around you. Aren't you just being manipulated or controlled by all of these different sensations, these different ideas that are plopped into your head? How do you, these thoughts that come into your head arise not just from within, but an incalculable relationship with what's going on around you, combined with what's going on within you, an infinite amount of combinations. You're more just trapped in this web of awareness of things that are happening around and to you from within and outside of you. You're just stuck within there. And so is everybody else. When someone else moves in the room, you notice it. They notice, you notice, subconsciously and unconsciously or consciously, whether that be you look directly at them or your body itself just notices through micro movements in the room, micro shifts, even mirror neurons in your brain that are meant to copy other human individuals or other living beings and try to imitate them, to understand them. So you're constantly just being like, new things are constantly being placed into your awareness and you're just reacting to them, right? Even from within, these sensations of I'm hungry now. Does that affect your the way that you think about the entire world? What you see align in the world, what things are relevant to you as you look outside of the world? Even with what things are relevant to you as you look on the inside world? Isn't your breathing getting changed a little bit when you're really, really hungry and you see something that is appetizing? When you're really, really thirsty and you see an oasis? It affects the way, what you're thinking about. You're not thinking about solving world hunger when you're starving. You're just thinking about feeding yourself. You're not thinking about building the next conglomeration or the next big skyscraper when you're too thirsty to even survive. That it will affect the entire consciousness for you, right? So we're not really free to do, we don't really have this free will in the way that we think we do, because we're constantly being affected and caged in by different sensations that are grabbing our attention. And so we are just doomed to react to those. How much free will do you actually have? Or how much are you just reacting to the world that is around and within you? As your body is constantly shifting from hungry to not hungry, thirsty to not thirsty, sleepy to not sleepy. It has all these priorities, bored to not bored, feeling like it's spiritually satisfied versus not spiritually satisfied. It has all of these different dispositions, right? Your body. And so you have this inside world that is grabbing for your attention. It's always alerting for your attention. And then you have this outside world that is definitely always alerting for your attention in different scopes, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, wisdomly, for your future, in reparations for your past, whatever, right? We're always just being affected by things that seem to grab our attention. And how do we know that they grab our attention? Usually pain. Suffering, right? Usually pain is our best friend because it alerts us as to what we care about. But how much free will do we really have when we're constantly being bombarded from all these different directions, from outside and from within, and we're just reacting to it, right? So what freedom do you have? What is this thing that we do feel like we have freedom over? That, my friend, would be awareness. What you place your awareness on. Your superpower, that superpower of yours that you have, that is yours, baby. That is yours, baby. So you can't change. You can't change what is. You can't change the nature of the fact that there are constantly an overwhelming amount of stimuli asking for your attention at all times, from inside and without. You can't change. You can barely change how much of that is affecting you. You can try to funnel it with your awareness. Choose, place what you want into your awareness. We don't have free will because we're constantly we're constantly caged into this kind of web from inside and out. All of us are just entangled in a web of information, sensory information, of things around in the world that are just grabbing our attention. And we're forced to think about those things as they arise. When a loud sound happens in a room, Everybody notices, everybody in that room notices. All of the attention goes there. And then how about when they stop paying attention to that? Well, that's a new situation that they're all paying attention to now too. But you can shift what's in your awareness, so you can't change you can't change the fact that you're being bombarded with all these things grabbing your attention wherever you are, as well as everyone around you. But what you can change is your awareness. Doesn't it feel so good to let go? You are free to change. As we remind you on Padawan here on Freedom Friday, you are free to change what's in your awareness. What's in your awareness? As we are all constantly watching each other, constantly thinking about one another, as we all naturally love one another. We all naturally need one another, love one another, care about one another. Sometimes we get hurt by that. But that hurt only because we care about another. So we're always noticing one another. So can we ever do anything independently of one another? Or aren't we always all being made aware of new things, but simultaneously together? You do something, someone notices you do something, they copy that, they think about it, happens to them too. Chain reaction of the same things occurring in people's awareness in certain aspects, but with ourselves, what we can change, despite the fact that this domino effect is happening to us, this butterfly effect of things. One thing happens to some person, they say something, someone else notices, someone else does something, someone else does a job, and someone else notices, they get influenced by that because you are so influential. As we spoke about yesterday on the Truth Hurts Day, you are so influential. And people are always watching one another. In a library, when someone kicks their foot, when someone moves their chair out, when someone stands up, the entire world is allowed to become aware of that. And they naturally do, a part of them. With their mirror neurons, as we subconsciously and unconsciously synchronize our body movements with one another, as we synchronize with them using mirror neurons unconsciously. We are all in this web of awareness together. We are all in this web of awareness together. So how much free choice do we have? How much free will do you have? How can you will in a world where you're all in this web together? How can you will when we're all in this web together? Are we not just free to change our awareness and allow the awareness to drag us? Because how much can you will in a world where we're all in a web of awareness? We naturally pick up on subconscious and unconscious feelings about how people feel about their own actions, as we discussed yesterday. When we are so influential that how you feel about your own needs alerts the world to how the world should see you and your needs. Now we know unconsciously and subconsciously too, with mirror neurons. We're all in this web, so we're unconsciously and subconsciously becoming aware of how people feel about themselves. And we can't help but become aware of those things, and we all feel the same way about human beings, so we all end up feeling the same way. We're all in this web together. So how much will can you will in a web like that? Or can you just change what's in your awareness? what you're thinking about, what you know to be true, what you have faith in. We'll be right back. I'm Pal, go on. Please pretend that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out, and then leave your swallowing muscles alone as you do so, and observe your sense of self. Why not throw a lip trill in? I'll be right back. Oh shit, I forgot to do this. Why not throw a lip trill in? I'll be right back. Are you pretending that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out, and to leave your swallowing muscles alone as you do so? And why might we do this? To feel so great from the inside out, as we leave our swallowing muscles alone. Why might it be important to feel so good from the inside out with your first podcast in 3D? Aaron Powell, go on. Why might it be important? Why might it be important to feel so good from the inside out by pretending that there's a candle in front of the lips? It's just flickering there and you're trying to not put it out. As you leave your swallowing muscles alone, say it with me in your head. If you would, observe your sense of self. Just observe your sense of self as you are thinking about how the front of your shins feel, if they feel like they're in the front of your awareness or if they feel like they were left behind. No need to judge whether or not it was, just simply check your awareness. Where was it? It's not about performance, but rather just discovery. Never about performance, just discovery. A question is good enough. To feel so good from the inside, a question is good enough. Am I remembering to pretend that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out? Am I thinking about leaving my swallow muscles alone? It's not about performance, just discovery to feel so good from the inside out. Am I observing my sense of self, as in, what does my body feel like it is in a relationship to itself? Does it feel aligned? Does my head feel heavy or light? Are the fronts of my shins in my awareness or not? Am I remembering to allow my weight to be delivered down the front of my spine or not? Am I allowing my spine to elongate on each exhale and retract on each inhale? Am I observing my sense of self as I am pretending that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out? And leave those swallowing muscles alone to feel so good from the inside out. Think about doing a lip trill as you observe your sense of self. Lip trills are great for singing practice, great for breathing practice. Am I thinking about doing a lip trill as I observe my sense of self? Simply place into your awareness to feel so good from the inside out. Am I thinking about doing a lip trill? Say it with me in your head. Am I thinking about doing a lip trill as I observe my sense of self? As we are remembering that there's a candle in front of the lips, kind of like this microphone, and we did first podcast in 3D. Are we remembering that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out? Leave your swallowing muscles alone and say it with me in your head, please, if you would. Just in your head. Am I thinking about doing a lip trill? And say it with me. Am I observing my sense of self? You might feel a stretch in the back of your neck. That is okay. It might feel unfamiliar. These areas might feel unfamiliar. That is okay. It is not about performance, but rather discovery. If it is painful, just notice. But if it is painful, never, ever, ever force yourself. It should always happen on its own as we are just simply shifting our awareness. Never forcing any muscles to move, never forcing any alignments to change, but simply just place into our awareness the idea of pretending there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. And leave your swallowing muscles alone and allow your body to go where it goes when you remember that your weight is not delivered down through your tailbone, but rather the front of the spine bears the weight of your body, delivering the weight of the body down itself into the front of the spine, and then bowing out into these rainbow arches, which are part of the pelvis bone, and into your sit bones. Not into this tailbone. Does your body shift in awareness? Or does your body shift in alignment when you shift your awareness from placing the weight into the mistaken area of this singular tailbone, and then converting it into the idea of placing your weight equally into those rainbow arches, down into your sit bones, delivered there by grace of the front of your spine? Does your body shift when you bring that into your awareness? Why is it so important to feel so good from the inside out? Well, so you are free to change what's in your awareness. Isn't it so hard to change what's in your awareness when you're not feeling great? When your body itself, the vessel that is responsible for wanting to change, for having the ability to change. The body is responsible for not just the desire to change, but even the ability to change. But how can it do that when the body itself does not feel free to change? When it is the object that is holding the feeling of wanting to change. When the body itself does not feel free to change, the mind itself does not feel free to change. How does that feel for you? Does that ring true to you? When the body itself does not feel free to change, the mind itself does not feel free to change. Because we are all one thing, right? Your body and mind are so interwoven. How much are you thinking about getting a raise at that job when there is a stabbing pain in your bottom right heel? Doesn't it take so much human will to shift your awareness onto your performance of getting this job when you have a stabbing pain in your heel? Why is it so good to feel so good from the inside out so that you feel so ready to change when needed? For freedom, you're ready to reposition yourself in order to have more enjoyment in life. Should your body feel free to change from the inside out, your mentality will also feel more free to change. As we know that we cannot have this free will that we think we do. We cannot just be flying. We cannot be anywhere we want. We cannot suddenly think about new things that are not into our awareness. And what's in our awareness tends to be the thing that's in most people's awareness at the time, because we are all living in this world together. When it gets placed into our awareness, we can't help it. How much free will do we have when we are in this web of human feelings, human relationships with not just the world, but with themselves? We can't help but feel the spirit, quote unquote, this relationship that people have with themselves and the world. We can't help but feel that through people's actions, through people's micro movements, literally physical movements, but also their actions through what they do in life, what they're doing now, whether they contact you or not, whether they're in your life, whether they're out of your life, whether they're speaking to you constantly, whether they're speaking to you infrequently, whether they're speaking to you loudly, whether they're speaking to you quietly. We can't help but pay attention to all these meanings in the worlds that are established due to people's relationships with not just the world, but with themselves, that we pick up on. So how much free will do we have when we're constantly thinking about those things? Because we all have the same spirit. We love human beings, so we care about how they feel. We can't help but care about when people feel certain ways about not just the world, but themselves, because we are just like them. And we internally understand that what's good for them is good for us, because not only are they good physically as a person, but we learn from them and the way that they're handling mistakes, because it's so difficult to see ourselves. We are the hardest person for ourselves to see. Our eyes look outwards. We don't have very many senses that we attune to looking inwards, but now today on Freedom Fridays here on Pagawan, and every day on Pagawan, we always remind you that you do. You do have a much better way to look inwards, as is the best way to look anyway, because everything in the outside world is relatable from the inside world, because everything outside world that we care about was created by this inside world. As in these structures that humans actually care about, these iPhones, these governments, these countries, these languages that we have, dances, music, art, movies, cars, even descriptions for just things that we didn't make, like skies. Poetry that describes trees. All these things were created from the inside world of human beings. Even just everything, just even understanding the world itself. Our ability to establish meaning in the way that we do has been passed down generation to generation from human being, blah, 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 blah. From the inside world, as in how humans feel about themselves, not just the world, but themselves, as themselves are constantly interacting and in a web of awareness with the world itself. We are the world, as we always say on Pagawan. We will be right back, but as long as you place a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out, as long as you say it with me, leave your swallowing muscles alone. As long as you say it with me. Say it with me. Leave your swallowing muscles alone. One more time. Say it with me. Leave your swallowing muscles alone. Even if it's just in your head. If you're too embarrassed, or if you can't say it out loud right now, just say it with me. Leave your swallowing muscles alone. We'll be right back on Pagawan. so good from the inside out. Better than your morning would feel without. Stretching our self-awareness like a muscle every morning to feel so good objectively. How do you feel good objectively? By using your body objectively. As in, where do you place the weight of the body? Down the back of the spine or the front of the spine? Which part of the body is meant to deliver the weight? The front of the spine or the back of the spine? Say it with me. The weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. The weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. One more time, if you would, even if it's just in your head, say it with me. The weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. As in, we look at the structures, the object that is balancing. Is there anything more true than balance? Even just saying that, right? When we're looking at structures in the world, is that not objective when we say that that building is there? Well, that building is an object. It exists in time and space. Objectively, it's standing there. Well, how is it standing there, that building? Balance. How is it able to stand upright? If it wasn't doing that, it would not be a building. If it would just be a bunch of wood on the floor that's not put together. It would just be a bunch of wood on the floor. The balance, the fact that it is upright, is part of its objective. What do we mean when we say that you don't have free will? As in, before knowing that you were supposed to leave your swallowing muscles alone, when you speak, when you drink, when you... pretty much everything. They'll engage when you eat, but they engage automatically, mechanically. They engage, well, physiologically, but they engage with you, like, subconsciously as you're just eating. But the swallowing muscles alone, leaving the swallowing muscles alone is something that you were able to do while you speak, while you watch TV, while you breathe. And that's something that might not have been in your awareness before. That might not have been something that you were aware of. That might not be something that you knew about. But were you able to will that to happen without knowing about it? You can't just will yourself to know something that wasn't placed into your awareness, right? You can't just will yourself to... You don't just will yourself to knowing a new formula. You're introduced to concepts, new things are placed into your awareness, but the difference between you knowing, the difference of what your body can do before it knows that you can leave the swallowing muscles alone at all times, and what your body can do after it knows that is like infinity. As in, it's like night and day, but it was impossible. It was right in front of you. Your body could always do it. It's just right in front of you. But the only difference is just whether or not it's in your awareness of whether you leave your swallowing muscles alone or not. The things your body could do after knowing that were completely out of your ability to will anything, up until the point where you became aware of that new idea. But you had no choice over becoming aware of that piece of information. And so no ability to use any of the benefits that might have come from knowing that information. We can't just will ourselves to become aware of new things. However, when we do know and learn new things, we have the ability to now shift our awareness onto that thing constantly. But until we know that thing, until it is placed into our awareness, we have, like, for the first time, we have no ability to ever touch it. You have no free will to suddenly download information that had no hope of becoming in your awareness in the first place. We are all at the mercy of what is being placed into our awareness. We have no will to suddenly create and generate something that wasn't given to us through our awareness already. Something that wasn't already given to us in a way that the whole world already reacted to simultaneously. We're all in this web together. There's no way that we download anything that was not placed into the awareness for the entire world at the same time. And so we're webbed in again as we are decidedly picking up on how everyone feels about it at the same time. And not just people who are around us, but people who we know, people whom we reference to, because we're always thinking about other people, because it's easier to see ourselves through the eyes of other people. And so as we are constantly subconsciously picking up on how people, even in our heads, people that we look up to, people who we think about in terms of referencing ourselves, as we're constantly picking up on how they feel about things and how their human spirit, because we're all the same, feel about things, we're constantly in this web feeling the same things about the same things. And we can't just will new things into our awareness. So what can we change? We can change what is in our awareness once it's placed in there, but you only know what you know, You only know what you know. So until new information is placed into your awareness, you can only operate on those. But once it's in your awareness, you are free to change what's in your awareness. You are free to change what your awareness is on, what your self-awareness is on. But the world and our hyper super smart brain, our super smart body is always picking up on things in the world in ways that we can't help. Picking up on the ways that our family feels about things, even after they're long gone. Picking up on ways that people around us feel about things. Picking up on ways that our body feels about things. We're constantly having our attention fought over. And isn't that really all there is? You are free. You have free will to change, but free will to will in the world in a way that is independent of other people? Doesn't seem likely. Doesn't seem likely. Our entire experience is this web of awareness of what our awareness is on, and we're constantly being guided by the way that people feel, people that we know, we recognize, people in our awareness, as they always are, as we're gauging ourselves through people constantly. Whether we're discerning or whether we're imitating, always placing what our awareness is on based on these other people. So how much free will do we have when we're constantly doomed to feel and empathize with other people? Well, we can shift what's in our awareness. Once it's there, we can't blame anybody, because we can't blame anybody for not knowing something, because you only know what you know. But once they know something, well, what they place their awareness on does represent something of their spirit, because how they place their awareness on the world is also defined on how they place their awareness on themselves, what they think of themselves. What am I worth? Do I deserve love? What am I worth? A lot. Do I deserve love? Yes. Does energy flow from within, or am I a slave to the energy that is without? Do I feel like all human beings are the same? Or do I feel othered from them? What is their awareness of themselves? What is their awareness of the world? What is their awareness of human beings? Their worldview of what a human being is? Do I believe that all human beings are the same? Well, if it's not into their awareness that yes, all human beings have the same dignity and have the same spirit, well, they can't operate from that. It must be into their awareness. They must believe it. If that's not something they're aware of about the human spirit, it does represent in the way that they treat the world. And isn't that something we should order, is how people view themselves and the world? Because it does get represented in, as we talked about in the Truth Hurts Day yesterday, it does represent in the way that they hold themselves in the world. And the way they hold themselves in the world does represent what is in their awareness about human beings and what they believe about human beings, which affects the spirit and how they're going to tackle each new hardship. So if you would, with me, as we tackle this next hardship, please pretend that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. And leave your swallowing muscles alone as you do so. Again, if you would, please say it with me, even if it's just in your head. Even if it's just in your head, please say it with me. Pretend there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. Again, say it with me. Pretend there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying not to put out. It's just flickering there. You're letting it rest. You're not trying to put it out. And say it with me, even if it's just in your head. Say it with me. Leave your swallowing muscles alone. Again, if you would, please say it with me. Leave your swallowing muscles alone. As we are pretending there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out, would you please say it with me in your head? Am I thinking about doing a lip trill? In your head, if you would, with me, just think about doing a lip trill. As we're letting that candle rest, remember. And just observe your sense of self. Leave that swallowing muscles alone. You can rotate through them. It's okay if it seems hard to hold all of them at one time. Rotating through them is fine. And we'll be right back. And Pal, go on. Feeling so good from the inside out. Better than your morning would feel without. Are you feeling the front of your shins today? Are you remembering to feel the front of your shins today? Are you remembering to leave those swallowing muscles alone? Wherever you are, wherever thou art, whenever thou art, are you in the car today? Are you driving the kids to school today? Are you just waking up? Are you making yourself a bowl of cereal? Are you making yourself a PB&J sandwich? Or maybe some eggs and ramen? How are you feeling today on a Freedom Friday like this? How are you feeling? Are you feeling great? Are you putting on the shoes? The shoes? Are you walking outside? Are you opening the door? Did you remember to lock the door? Did you remember to eat breakfast? Did you remember to drink water? It might sound like you're telling me to do all these things. Hey, it's Freedom Friday. Let me do what I want. Freedom to do what you want comes from definitely not cutting corners in the place that you should not cut corners in, so that you can be free when you need to be free, because you're constantly being battled with from a war outside and in. So to do the best that we want to feel and to love, aren't there some preparations that must be made to make sure that you are able to traverse these warring lands from the outside and from within? How free are you to enjoy your time here at this amusement park that you're at, when you now have a stomach ache because you ate too much sugar cookies in the morning and did not have the restraint to remind yourself to pack all your clothes the day before? So now you're here at this amusement park, wet, and your stomach hurts. You don't have a change of clothes. How much freedom do you have now? You might be telling me, hey, Herbie, don't tell me to pay attention to myself like that. Don't tell me to arrange the way that I feel about human beings properly. Don't tell me to do things. I want to be free on Freedom Fridays. Well, don't you have to arrange your things properly in your car to make sure that your car runs smoothly, so that things aren't breaking all over the place? So when you get to the place that you are at, you have the freedom to enjoy the way that you want to enjoy. Don't we always discipline ourselves in certain ways to enjoy more? Don't we always orient our bike wheels forward and not in every free direction that they want, quote unquote, in order to have the freedom to ride freely on this bike? Don't we always align ourselves? Don't we always align things in life? Don't we always align ideas so that we can have more freedom in life? Don't we align the idea of going into a house with a door so that we're not constantly confused with how to get into our friend's house? We're not constantly popping it through the window like Clarissa explains it all. Maybe he needed to align his ideas better. Maybe he needed to align his worldview properly, such that he realized that doors were how you enter houses, not windows. And why would we do that? Oh, don't we have less freedom when we're not going through windows? Until you go to jail. Until you realize that you want to get into a house really quickly and you want to just grab your things so you can go free and be free at the park or at the beach. And now you're spending 15 minutes trying to understand how to get into your house. Or you're frustrating yourself by spending 5 minutes trying to open this window. How much freedom do you have to get your things now when you're like, no, this window must be a door. I'm going to force this to happen. Well, okay, well, you can spend 2 seconds opening a door. You can spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then 10 years in jail trying to break open this window. If it's not your house. I don't know if you can get in trouble if it's on your house. Well, if you don't own the house. So aren't we always disciplining our mind as we move forward, not in order to cage ourselves in, but to provide us more freedom, because there will always be more things in the world to enjoy. Aligning some things does not restrict us from a freedom that is suffocating, or that it does not cause us to suffocate. Disciplining our mind to see certain things more rigidly does not cause us to suffocate. For the same way, your rigid instructions of your design for your plane will allow it to fly in the best way possible, using a rigid design, possibly a rigid behavior in the human effort towards designing this plane, this jet, whatever is flying. So aren't we constantly disciplining our mind? Aren't we constantly aligning ourselves, not to cage ourselves in, but to build ourselves more freedom, build ourselves a vantage point to access more freedoms? Aren't we always causing our ideas to, aren't we always allowing some of our ideas to become more rigid? Like, we rigidly know that consistency is great for business. That is a rigid thought. That hard work leads to payouts. That consistency causes us to have a better relationship. So perhaps our thinking might become more rigid in that sense, in that we know, in that we're limiting our idea, quote unquote, of what creates good relationships is this consistency thing. You might think that that's restricting, but isn't that granting more freedom? The same way that you would want the wheels on a bike to be rigidly oriented towards where you want it to be oriented, to grant you more freedom, so that you're going the same direction that you predict, so that your body can predict that, again, with consistency, so you have a better relationship with this bike. A more consistent relationship with this bike might seem like it's reducing your freedom because, oh, it's more consistent, you got to be on it more consistently, but doesn't that allow you more freedom as you're more consistent with your relationship with this bike? It's not all as it seems, right? It's not always as simple as it seems to say that any kind of limitation will reduce your freedom. We put limits on many things to allow for bigger freedoms. It's like our lives got more complex and we're like, all right, we're done being entranced with this thing. Let's see what it's all about. Compress it into something much easier to digest, understandable, and then use that to provide us more freedom in new directions. Limiting is not always the antithesis. Limiting is not always the opposite of freedom. Rules are not always the opposite of freedom. Discipline is not always the opposite of freedom. As do those not just place awareness onto bigger ideas? Our superpower of awareness, are we not able to stretch our awareness and see bigger pictures? Are we not able to scope out from the deck of cards? Are we not able to scope out from the house of cards to see this beautiful house of cards is standing upright, free to stand upright, free to grow and stay tall, free to grow as high as it wants to, but requiring the rigidity of the cards beneath it in order to grow? We are free to change our awareness and to see where it is rigid, the cards, but we are free to shift our awareness to see how that rigidity of those cards allows the freedom to grow, the freedom to balance, and we are free to shift our awareness that way. To see where it might be good to limit and where it might be good to be free, and how they constantly interact with one another. We are free to change our awareness of that. Though we might not be free to place ourselves independently of anywhere and will ourselves independently to know anything, we are free to change our awareness. And why might we want to use our superpower of awareness? Well, to love life and to not fear death. To always be life-loving and not death-fearing. And to feel so good from the inside out. So we are always free to change and to grow. Because our body will be feeling good from the inside out. Our body will feel free to change from the inside out as we are placing a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. And leave your swallowing muscles alone as you do so. And if you would, say it with me. Even if it's just in your head, please just say it with me. Observe your sense of self. Again, even if it's just in your head, please. I should do this, huh? Again, even if it's just in your head, please say it with me. Observe your sense of self. One more time, if you would, in your head. Say it with me. Observe your sense of self. As you're pretending that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. And leave your swallowing muscles alone as you do so. Thank you guys for another Freedom Friday. Thank you for coming through. Wherever you are, whenever thou art. We appreciate you. We appreciate all of it. And I hope you've been feeling so great from the inside out. Questions, comments, concerns, please shout them out. Please pretend that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. We'll talk to you soon. Leave your swallowing muscles alone. Today we talked about how you are free to change. And your body should feel free to change. Hope you have a fantastic day today. It is 6:49 a.m. on Friday, September 2nd, 2021. Freedom Friday. You are free to change what's in your awareness, and the best way to do that is from the inside out, baby. Because when you feel good, you think good. And when you think good, you do good. Again, please say it with me. When you feel good, you think good. And when you think good, you do good. If we are free to change on the outside world, well, our body must feel free to change on the inside world first. Does your body feel free to change? We'll see you next week, guys. Have a great freaking day. My name is Herbie. I'm your host, Herbie, and we'll see you next week on Pal Go On.